Hello, my children. It is I, the 100-year-old vegan, here to bestow my my wisdom upon you. I'm hoping I never get to the point where I'm actually celebrating my 100 vegan anniversary for multiple reasons. If I'm vegan for 100 years, that means I'm 121 years old or 22 years old. That's too old. I don't want to be ageist, but just 122 years old is too damn old for me. Imagine being over 100 years old for another 22 years. Oh my god, no, I'm getting anxiety just thinking about it. Like, I'm okay with being alive, but I don't want to be alive for that long. The other thing is, lab-grown meat at some point is going to be available at the supermarket at a decent price, considering how animal products are more subsidized than vegan alternatives. So I'm definitely gonna be trying lab-grown meat. I'm not gonna not try it. If it doesn't include cruelty, I'm trying it. I don't care if it's even human meat. I don't care if it's like baby meat. If it's lab-grown and nobody suffered for it, I might as well try it. I just know that some people are gonna take that literally and think that I eat babies. And I don't, I promise. I've never eaten babies and I'm not planning on eating any babies, oh my god. So today I wanted to discuss Seaspiracy and my thoughts on veganism in general and how they've evolved over time, because I have been vegan for 7 whole years. That's such a long time. I feel so old. Oof. Okay. Let's just take those thoughts and bury them somewhere very deep. I mean, I know the documentary came out like a month and a half ago, but I have been moving, if you cannot tell, and it has been a very long and exhausting process, and I didn't have time to make this video any sooner, but I do want to discuss it because I genuinely really love this documentary, but I know that there is a little bit of negative press going around about it, and I want to discuss it. In case you haven't watched Seaspiracy, it's a fantastic documentary. I highly recommend it. It's basically like a follow-up to Cowspiracy, and actually one of the creators of Seaspiracy, Ali Tabrizi, used to be a YouTuber, and I actually have spoken to him a few times, and he's a very great guy. So yeah, I'm just here name dropping and feeling really cool that I know someone that has made a Netflix documentary, basically. Ali actually made a YouTube video called Seaspiracy, and through that, Kit Harington, I think is his last name, the creator of Cowspiracy, contacted him, basically invited him to make a full-on Seaspiracy documentary. So Kit Harington did not make the Cowspiracy documentary, just to clarify. it's Kip Anderson. All I'm thinking about right now is just Jon Snow being like, I know the White Walkers are coming, but have you heard about the environmental impact of animal agriculture? I can't. Oh my god, I'm such a dumbass. I have been waiting for this documentary to come out in at least 5 years, so the hype was very real for me, and it didn't disappoint. The least we can all do is educate ourselves on where our food comes from. And not only animal products, all food in general. Just, you know, you can go down a rabbit hole of just looking at one thing after another and then realizing that every single thing that we eat comes from some form of exploitation. And then, you know, what are the options? Breatharianism? I don't think so. But I think it's all a matter of measuring how much cruelty is involved in the things that end up in our plates and just eliminating the things that involve multiple layers of cruelty or extreme amounts of cruelty, things that involve human slavery, things that involve murder. Probably not the best things to have as part of our daily menus. So first, I want to discuss the main oh, there's a spider. There's a spider right above my head. Nope, don't think about it. So I want to touch a little bit on the negative criticism that the documentary has received. Just a few things that I saw online that, you know, might spark an interesting conversation. A lot of the complaints against the documentary that I found online kind of hit on various different parts of it, but I found an essay that kind of covered all of the points against the documentary in a very targeted way and with a lot of great arguments. It's by Kaylin Maihara. She's a filmmaker, a photographer. She also has a bachelor's degree in marine biology and a master's in documentary production. She is highly qualified, a lot more qualified than I am, really, to make commentary on this documentary. So Maihara's essay is on the Medium, and it's called Seaspiracy: Why as an Asian Ocean Activist It Was So Harmful. She writes, "First of all, I'd like to say that I support the message that privileged people from rich nations who get their food at grocery stores should think twice about buying seafood, because indeed industrial fishing is linked to a whole host of environmental and social issues. I agree with that statement. However, while this message applies to some, it does not apply to everyone around the globe equally." I 100% agree with her point here, but also I don't think that a documentary that's available on Netflix could appeal to anyone other than privileged people from wealthier nations, anyone that has the money to pay for a Netflix subscription. These are people that definitely do have the ability to make choices regarding what they eat and what they don't eat. It's also the wealthiest and most privileged people that are contributing the most to climate change and supporting companies that are contributing the most to climate change. So I think it is important for documentaries like this to be targeted towards them. Probably the biggest argument against veganism that I see people making is that, but there are indigenous tribes that live off of, either fish or meat or some type of dairy. And I'm like, are you a person that lives in an indigenous tribe and needs that to sustain themselves? Because as far as I know, you have a fridge and you have electricity and you have a 9-to-5 job and you also have a lot of excuses. And having access to a supermarket and having the ability to make choices about what you can and can't eat is an incredible privilege. Not every human has that privilege. I have never seen vegan activists at such a level of insanity that they're saying that literally every human being on Earth can be vegan. But that might be because I'm not socializing with crazy vegans. Maybe there are. I don't know what Freely's saying lately. I don't watch her videos, but I imagine it might be something along those lines. Maihara also writes, "The film centers itself around a very limited middle-class Western perspective, which is something we see in conservation time and time again. Frankly, I'm tired of listening to mostly white middle-class people touting solutions to save the oceans that do not include or consider colonial imperialist history, geopolitical or cultural context, and portray people of color according to stereotypes and without allowing them a voice." I very much agree with her on this. And once you take into consideration that environmental destruction and climate change is primarily hurting women of color from lower economic classes in poorer countries, then it becomes apparent that the people that are most affected by these issues are not really given a platform. Then when she's referring to anti-Asian stereotypes, she writes, "This film, seen by millions, will further strengthen those dangerous stereotypes and will leave an entire community vulnerable and left without a voice at the worst time possible. Demonizing Asians is not the only way to tell this story. Factually, Norway kills more whales than any other country in the world, more than Japan and Iceland combined. But the Norwegian whaler stereotype, or lack thereof, just doesn't evoke that same visceral and emotional response." Actually, that was kind of something that I felt when I first started watching the documentary, because it was very heavily focused on Asia. And I was aware that, Asia is not the only place that is torturing sea animals or exterminating sea animals. The same thing is happening all over the Mediterranean, all over the Atlantic. Even the documentary touches afterwards on that and points it out that it's not only Asia, it's actually everyone. And it's just that, especially in the global West, so in the USA, Europe, Australia, it's very normalized to put the blame on Asia and to look at how much seafood Asian populations are eating and just blame them basically when everyone in the West is also eating a ton of sea animals. Maihara concludes, "This brings me to my last point. The oversimplification of a massive problem this film employs is not only wrong, but is also ineffective. The filmmakers had an opportunity to empower people to help create lasting change by affecting ocean policy, but they squandered it and left it up to the consumer. It is great that if you have $1 to vote with, then vote with it and change what you buy.
But not everyone has that power, and saving the oceans is going to take a lot more than just tweaking your spending. Individuals are powerful, but only when we come together collectively and take a stand to pressure governments to enact laws and create major shifts of our collective mindset that ensures lasting change. Yet once again, here is a film that is turning a huge intersectional global environmental issue into one that can be solved by the green spending habits of middle-class people. What this film fails to understand is that we are more than just consumers, and our true power lies not in our wallets, but in solidarity with one another and the planet we share. Ultimately, we need a change in mindset and an attitude that goes beyond the role of the market, but one that pushes us towards becoming stewards of the ocean. I 100% agree with her on this, but what I'd like to add is that I'm not sure that a documentary, any documentary really, discussing conservation and environmental issues is capable of really presenting all of the information and at the same time going over how problematic capitalism is, because that's really what this last paragraph is about. I think what she wrote here needs an entire documentary in and of itself in order to decondition people from believing that voting with our wallet is the only way that we can bring change. And again, the people that do have time to get involved with changing law, changing legislation, are people that are more privileged. I think that changing the way that we consume is a great first step, and it should not be disregarded. I think it's a great way for anyone that doesn't have the time to get politically involved to be able to do something, as small as it might be. I think the average middle-class consumer of a Netflix documentary doesn't really have the luxury to do anything more than change their spending habits. I think the state of capitalism that we are in currently really doesn't afford us the ability to actual democracy anymore. And so we're left really with a catch-22 situation where those that are privileged are also the ones that are more likely to be in a position where they can make a documentary like this, or that can be vegan activists or environmental activists or conservationists. And those that are the least privileged are not the ones that are really being awarded opportunities to speak out about their issues.
Another thing that I found interesting when I was researching, the counterpoints on this documentary was that a lot of people were actually agreeing with it, but at the same time were very passionately mad about a certain part of the documentary. That usually the documentary itself would later on touch on that point. And this is something that is kind of irrelevant to veganism, but it has to do with activism in general, which slightly confuses me. And I don't know what the correct answer here is, to be honest. I can't remember who said this. This feminist at some point says that everything is sexist and you need to point it all out. But once you start pointing everything out, you reach the point where even feminism is sexist. And then you have to point that out as well. At what point do we start doing more harm than good through pointing out all the problematic things around us? And that's just, again, I personally don't have the answer to that question. This is one of the biggest dilemmas that I had with veganism was, okay, I really don't want animals to suffer. But at the same time, there are a lot of people out there who are vegan activists, but yet they themselves are harming other people. And so then you're in a dilemma of, do I point out how much of a piece of shit that vegan is? But if I do that, then what I do is I kind of cancel all of their vegan work as well. Vegan work, you know what I mean? Their activism, basically. And so therefore, is the consequence for that more animal suffering? Or is the consequence for that accountability and better vegan activist role models? So I will be spilling tea today. But before I get into it, I'd like to thank Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video.
Our access to information and entertainment online is restricted by our location. Surfshark bypasses censorship and geo-blocking to give you access to your favorite sites and services, even in countries that ban them. It unlocks the 15 largest Netflix country libraries, including the US and Japan, by merely connecting to a server in the right country, and also gives you access to BBC iPlayer, Hulu, and other limited streaming services services wherever you are. Another benefit that I love as a content creator is that it gives me access to social media features that aren't available in my country, like Instagram Music, posting YouTube Shorts, as well as the ability to torrent safely. Surfshark is also a great traveling tool as it helps with overcoming location-based price discrimination on plane tickets and car rentals, and it keeps your personal data safe when you log on to public Wi-Fi. Surfshark allows you to install and run it on an unlimited number of devices with only one subscription, and you can use my promo code Kristen to get 83% off and 3 extra months for free. Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk to try it out for yourself. Use the link in my description to unlock the global web with Surfshark VPN.
Before I get into spilling some serious tea today, first I want to point out a few other things within the vegan movement that bother me, because I feel like we have all been growing, okay, and improving. I want to start out by calling out myself. I want to start by calling out a lot of things within the vegan philosophy that I don't agree with. But most importantly, me calling these things out does not invalidate the ideology that other sentient beings deserve to live. It's more of a scrutiny of veganism rather than a scrutiny of not killing animals. It's not at all a scrutiny of not killing animals. I 100% support that. But I do not support a few things within the vegan philosophy. They just don't sit right with me. I think idealizing everything and romanticizing everything actually sets unrealistic expectations for people. And I think that, you know, the way that veganism blew up was in such a toxic way. And I want to talk about that. So I became vegan during a time that YouTube was such a different place. And I feel like a lot of girls, especially during that time, went vegan for the same exact reason that I did, which was through watching Freely's videos. And Freely, amazing body. I can't judge her for her body. It's amazing. But the algorithm of YouTube just knew every single one of us that had an eating disorder, and it took Freely's videos and it was like, there you go, you're gonna love this. And we all just ate it up. And I definitely think that I'm not the only person with an eating disorder that went vegan because I thought it was gonna make me skinny as Freely. And I think a lot of other people did that as well. And then when they realized that, you know, you're not gonna look like that unless you spend 4 hours on a bike, then a lot of people were like, okay, never mind, I'm going back to eating animals. I don't know if you remember, but Freely's boyfriend at the time, Durianrider, what a massive piece of shit. And he was actually sexually harassing women and then sending his army of like vegan bro minions to attack these women that were speaking online and talking about the fact that he was a predator, and they basically got bullied off of the internet.
I went to check if Durianrider's channel is still active, and it very much is. And he's still getting a pretty decent amount of views. His videos always feel like I'm watching a fever dream that I can't escape. One of the worst ones that he posted last year is called Durianrider Racist. His caption says, "Durianrider Racist? I got called racist by a few SJW trolls this week. I'm the opposite of a racist. I don't even see..." Why am I turning into a redneck accent? Honestly, like, yeah, pretty accurate accent. "I don't even see skin color," he says. "I just see how you act and your personality type." What? Okay, just first off, when the white person says, "I don't even see skin color," that translates to, I refuse to acknowledge my white privilege. And so I turn a blind eye to the fact that people with different skin color are treated different in society and have less privileges than I do. That's what that means. Also, the opposite of racist, is he Antifa? What is he? And what this video basically is him refuting claims that he's racist by saying, look, I'm not racist, because this black woman 4 or 5 years ago said that I'm a really nice guy. And at the same time centering the entire video around himself and his personal struggles. The whole thing, it's just really embarrassing. Also, veganism online during the Raw Till 4 era, which was, you know, when Freely's videos were getting millions of views, and she was basically critiquing other people's What I Eat in a Day videos and basically making it look like veganism is gonna cure every problem that you ever had. It's gonna solve your daddy issues, and I don't know. Veganism was very much presented as the solution to every single health problem. And all of us that were promoting veganism online during that time, and I do include myself in that, were very much behaving like a cult.
Because what cults do is they use a noble purpose in order to subject everyone to other things that are very much not noble at all. And so you're using saving the animals as an excuse to get away with a lot of behavior that is even illegal. And then you persuade everyone to not speak, because if you speak up against someone that is a vegan activist, then you're harming the animals. No moral philosophy should ever be used in order to prevent people from defending themselves and from speaking out against people that are doing harm to others. Regardless of whether that person is a vegan activist, whether they're a doctor that cures baby cancer, I don't care. So yeah, I just wanted to point out that I totally recognize how problematic things were at the time, and I feel like I definitely participated in it in multiple ways through not speaking out more against perpetrators like Durianrider, through not speaking out more and calling out Freely's behavior as well that was encouraging all of this, supporting all of this, promoting eating disorders. And I also participated in it in a way through my own channel, through making videos like What I Eat in a Day. Look at me, look at what I eat to be so fit. Like, no, it's not the food. It's because you're freaking 24 years old, okay?
I did participate in the mentality that, veganism's gonna fix everything. I'm pretty sure that I left a comment on one of Anna Akana's video telling her that if she went vegan, she would not need to take antidepressant medication. That's a really shitty thing to say. And it's invalidating. It's inaccurate. I am embarrassed for myself that would even cross my mind. Anna's not gonna watch this video, but I'd like to publicly say that I'm very sorry for leaving that comment. That was a really shitty thing to do. The other thing that really reminds me of a cult like Scientology is how the movement was very supportive when it came to vegans supporting other vegans or vegans supporting people go vegan, but if someone would leave the movement, not label themselves anymore as vegan, or introduce some animal products into their diet, then that person was immediately demonized. Everyone online would make videos calling them out, and that person was basically ostracized. And I definitely recognize that I participated in that as well, not only through the content that I made, but in my personal life, where I would also have this idea that if someone would quit being vegan, then I wouldn't want to socialize with them anymore. Thankfully, I've moved out of that phase, and now I know that whether someone is vegan or not, that I just don't want to socialize with anyone. So
now this is the reason why, oh my god, a cockroach? As if the spider was not enough, now there's a cockroach? Really? What have I done to deserve this? Oh, what is it? I don't know what it is, but I hope it dies soon. I want it dead. I hate bugs, I'm sorry. See, that's another thing that I want to say. Let's normalize being vegan and still hating insects. I think that butterflies are great. Ladybugs are great. Everything else can literally die. Now, I'm really exposing myself, but when I was very young, I would eat bugs, okay? Straight off the ground. I felt no pity towards them, no compassion. If you gave me an apple or an ant, I would eat both of them. Yeah, I don't know, cancel me. Cancel me, but I hate insects. If they tried to be a little bit cuter, maybe I'd like them, but I don't. I think that we should stop eating animals, and all the people that want to eat things should eat bugs. The other thing, this is why I got canceled as a vegan here in Greece. But when I was on that reality styling show competition thing, I talked about how I was wearing secondhand leather. And then the activism group, Anonymous for the Voiceless Greece, were just furious about me wearing secondhand leather. And they went on like a full smear campaign on Facebook, which I never got to see because I don't use Facebook because I'm not that old. I'm old, but I'm not that old. I feel like it's so incredibly elitist to have the expectation that when someone becomes vegan, they automatically have to take all of their leather shoes and bags, throw them away, or donate them, so therefore making someone else wear them, and then spending money to buy a bunch of new vegan leather shoes and bags. It's expensive, it's time consuming, and it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't promote that. I think you should reuse the things that you already have. Personally, I'm not disgusted by wearing leather. It just, I'm aware that that is the skin of a dead animal. You know, if it was a pair of shoes made out of insects, I might be a little bit happy about it too. No, I'm kidding. As long as you're not contributing to the leather industry, I don't see where the issue is. Also, the idea that you're gonna give it to someone else, then someone else is just gonna be wearing it. So is the vegan ideology just making animal cruelty someone else's problem? Is the vegan ideology making other people wear leather products, but you are morally superior, therefore, like, you don't do it? Like, there is no logic behind it. I can't reason with it. I completely understand someone that is disgusted of wearing a dead animal's skin on their shoes, you know, not doing it, and I'm fully supportive of it. But at the same time, there is nothing wrong, again, with reusing the stuff that you already have. And I rest my case. And then the final part of the vegan philosophy that I personally don't agree with is honey. Honey, to me, is not a black and white issue. It's a very morally gray area. And I cannot label honey as something that is cruel, that is animal cruelty, for multiple reasons. The production of honey is a symbiotic relationship between beekeeper and beehive, where it's a mutually beneficial relationship in a lot of cases. And yes, beekeepers take the honey from the bees, and yes, that is not great for the bees, but the honey is replaced with a lower quality syrup, which is of course not as nourishing as honey is, but it kind of does the job. Moreover, the bee populations are declining significantly, and beekeepers are some of the few groups of people that are fighting to preserve and keep bees alive. And here you might say that, you know, beekeepers should be doing that without expecting bees' honey in return. But then how does the beekeeper make money? How does a human being with a family sustain themselves financially? Under capitalism? How is that done? Please let me know. So to me, it is a moral dilemma, because on one hand, you have bees, cute, adorable, fuzzy creatures that get to eat a substitute for their diet that is less nourishing for them. On the other hand, you have a family making enough money to bring food at the table. The cruelty versus human benefit here, to me, is what makes this a morally gray dilemma. It's not like someone is bringing food at the table through murder. It's not the same. Can we all agree that it's not the same? And that it's okay to discuss the morality of a situation like this? I personally don't think that this is the same with comparing someone, you know, slaughtering cows in order to bring food to the table. To me, it's not the same. Slaughterhouse workers experience extreme PTSD and also higher levels of domestic violence, so their job is negatively impacting their personal life. As far as I know, beekeeping is not traumatizing. Slaughtering animals is very traumatizing for the people that have to work to do that. A final thing that I wanted to mention was I label myself as a vegan. Therefore, whenever another vegan goes publicly and says something incredibly like either racist or insensitive or just hurtful towards people, then what happens is people automatically attach the vegan label to whatever stupidity came out of that vegan's mouth. Are you responsible for every single person within the movement that you align yourself with? If yes, that means that you have to perpetually be calling out and policing every single person that's within that movement, which is not fun, not great, not something that I want to waste my time doing. What's in my control is whether or not I put a label on myself or whether or not I decide to take responsibility for the things that others do that share the same label as me. It would be exhausting doing that. I understand calling people out when something is like super serious, but then again, like people are doing super serious, stupid shit all the time. What I'm trying to say is that if I were introduced to vegan philosophy at this point in my life, I would not attach that label to myself. I would simply refrain from eating animals and their byproducts, but I would not call myself vegan. Not because I have an issue with a vegan label, but because it's impossible for me to be responsible for every single vegan out there. And so for me, where I am in my life right now, I would not want to associate myself with any label in particular. I would rather be labelless. I would rather not even have a name at this point. I feel my vibrations rising. I am ascending into another realm and my third eye is opening and I'm realizing that I'm everything and nothing at the same time. It is impossible to contain myself within a vocabulary that is created by humans that is so incredibly limited. So here's the tea. I am not a fan of Earthling Ed. And this is not a personal attack because Earthling Ed has done nothing to me, but he has done some pretty shady things to people that I know personally, to friends of mine. Along with Earthling Ed, I would like to also call out Anonymous for the Voiceless. So I know how I just said that I don't want to be responsible for whatever stupid things other vegans do, but in this particular case, because these two groups have not only, like Anonymous for the Voiceless here in Greece, have not only attacked me personally, but they have literally stolen from people that I know. I feel like it's my responsibility to point this out because the person that they have been hurting is a person that would not hurt a single fly, that is incredibly compassionate and not petty enough to speak out against this. But guess who is petty, bitch? Guess who is a petty bitch? Me. I, in a previous video, pointed out how I'm not really supportive of Earthling Ed's activism, where a white man from a wealthy European country is going and touring the world speaking about veganism. It's a very colonialist way of promoting compassion towards animals. And I think the ideal thing to do is if someone invites you to speak about animal rights in another country, then find a great animal rights activist in that country and refer them. The other thing is that a lot of vegan activists are making fortunes on animal rights activism and not actually extending the fortunes that they're making towards helping animals, which is interesting. So I'm gonna start with Anonymous for the Voiceless first. Anonymous for the Voiceless is an animal rights group that their concept is basically holding laptops, wearing a mask, and showing people footage from either slaughterhouses or in general footage of animal cruelty that is linked to either the clothing industry or the food industry. Before that concept was created, there was actually the Earthlings experience. People with masks and laptops would sit in public places showing the Earthlings documentary. Is that familiar at all? Does that remind you something? The whole concept was ripped off, and the person that came up with this was my friend, Phoebe Frampton, who lives in the UK, and she's an incredible animal rights activist, an insanely compassionate person. I'm gonna link her Instagram below. And so what Anonymous for the Voiceless did was they completely ripped off the Earthlings experience, and they rebranded it, and they turned it into a very profitable operation for them.
So not only do they not give any credit to Phoebe on their website and instead claim that Anonymous for the Voiceless was built on the founders' unwavering determination to create a world of justice for animals. No, it was literally a stolen idea. On top of that, on their website, they say that the money from donations go to staff and to support jobs within the animal rights movement, and also towards helping organize and execute large-scale campaigns, as well as facilitating free online educational content and training to build and maintain a strong team of activists worldwide. So basically, the money is going into the organization in order to keep fueling the organization, but nowhere in here do I see how this is afterwards extended towards helping animals. They're not really providing on their website any proof on how effective they are. There's also studies proving that guilting people into going vegan isn't really very effective. Meanwhile, Anonymous for the Voiceless are going against science and against research and advocating that guilting people into going vegan is important and must be done. And they're also anti-flexitarianism, vegetarianism, and say that it harms the movement. So their stance is that they do not accept anything other than veganism. Therefore, their goal isn't really to actually save as many animals as possible. Instead, the goal is to promote the vegan label and converting as many people as possible into becoming vegan without really caring whether they stay vegan or not. On top of that, one of their social media managers on Instagram basically said publicly that the only oppression that exists is animal oppression and that white supremacy is not a thing. What I find interesting is that the founders said that they don't stand behind those words, but the first page that you land on their website says end human supremacy, which is an interesting choice of words considering we can say end human domination over animals. End human dominion. The choice of the word supremacy, I think, is very purposeful. Another thing is that they've publicly said that they do not want an intersectional approach in their activism, which to me means that they're anti-intersectionality. Intersectionality is when you include other issues in your activism and don't exclusively focus on one thing and disregard all the other topics that are interconnected with it. In my opinion, it's the least effective way that you can actually have a positive impact because you're basically choosing to ignore every single other problem that is connected to the problem that you're trying to solve. Not only that, they straight up publicly said that they don't care about politics, which again, how do you expect to actually change things if you don't care about politics? And this is the reason why I quit activism in general, because I figured out that through politics and through changing laws and legislations, that's the only way to bring actual change. And I know that that is something that I cannot do. I do not have the knowledge, I do not have the skill set, and I don't have the emotional strength to be able to participate. And I knew it would be hypocritical for me to continue calling myself an animal rights activist when I'm not actually doing the real action that needs to be taken, which is political action. Saying that you don't care about politics means that all you want to do is beat around the bush, call people murderers in the street for eating animals, and then collecting a big fat paycheck. Changes need to be made globally when it comes to food subsidies. Changes need to happen when it comes to laws about animal welfare, and radical changes need to happen within our capitalist system. But it seems like anti-capitalism goes against the agenda of many of the financial backers of many of these vegan activist groups.
And then there's our dear friend Earthling Ed, or might I say Alexander, which is his real name actually. I do not believe that he cares at all about animals. Now, that's just a speculation that I'm making based on the information that I have, but I genuinely believe that he only got involved in it because he saw it as a tremendous financial opportunity, because as a vegan activist, you can make a lot of money. So the first negative thing that I ever heard about Earthling Ed was from a friend of mine that works at the Retreat Animal Sanctuary in the UK. I've never been, but from the pictures that I see on Instagram, it's amazing. And I hope that I get to go there if I'm ever in the UK again. I'm gonna link it in the description box below so you can check it out. And I'm also gonna add a link where you can donate. I'm not gonna name who said this to me because I don't want to get them in any trouble. But what was very interesting was the particular sanctuary was trying to raise money in order to buy some nearby land that was gonna be converted into a slaughterhouse. And they wanted to buy the land and extend the sanctuary. So they were trying to raise a certain amount of money for that. It's in the UK, land is extremely expensive there, so it was a lot of money. And they went to Earthling Ed's restaurant. The name of the restaurant is escaping me right now, but I actually went there and ate there. The food is really great. So that person went to Earthling Ed's restaurant. It's supposed to be a restaurant that raises money for animals. So that person found Earthling Ed in that restaurant and said, we've made some flyers for our animal sanctuary that we're trying to raise money for. Can you pass these on to the people that visit the restaurant? And he was like, sure thing, no problem. Consider it done. Later on, that person that told me this story went to check if they had distributed the flyers. And a person working at the restaurant told them that he took the flyers and literally just dumped them in the trash. Is that something that an animal rights activist does? If he was too bored to distribute the flyers, he could have just put them on the counter, could have placed them in the entrance, but he dumped them in the trash. Another fascinating thing that I heard is that there is a vegan Arab prince. He has been a financial backer of Earthling Ed and a lot of other UK-based animal rights activists. I've heard that Earthling Ed, instead of using that money to, further his animal rights activism, he's used it to buy an apartment in London, like in a very expensive area. These supposed animal rights activists are making a ton of money out of this. And I would expect a lot more results, to be honest. If that much money is being poured into their animal rights activism, I'd like to see more results other than, one mildly viral video per year. I'm so salty and so petty, and I do not care. So that was it. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your dog, your cat, your grandma, I don't know, whoever you want. And a huge thank you to my patrons for supporting this channel, making these videos possible, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.